Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a journey through what is honestly one of the oldest, most resilient storytelling devices in all of human history. We're talking about those stories you've probably known since childhood, but we're going to look at them through an entirely new lens. We're unpacking the evolution of the fable from its ancient classical roots all the way to the mind-bending ways it's being reimagined right now in modern media. Okay, let's dive into this. So I want you to just think about this question for a second. Why, for literally thousands of years across completely disconnected continents, did humanity decide the absolute best way to solve deeply human, incredibly complex social problems was to use talking animals, right? Like whether it's a cunning fox trying to grab some grapes or a super patient tortoise challenging a hare to a foot race, we've relied on these simple archetypes for millennia. We use them as a sort of moral mirror. By stripping away human faces and swapping them out for animal avatars, we actually bypass our own defensive biases. It's just a fascinating psychological trick that our ancestors figured out a really long time ago.
To really understand how these stories function, we've got to look at their original design, because the classical fable didn't start in some cozy library or a modern publishing house. No, these narratives emerged completely organically from the oral traditions of ancient civilizations. We're talking about Aesop in ancient Greece, the brilliant Panchatantra in India, and the incredibly rich storytelling traditions of the Middle East. And here is the key to understanding this blueprint. These stories were literally built for survival. Think about it. Before the printing press, a story only lived if it was remembered. If it was too complicated, it died.
So the crucial point is that these stories were not meant to just be, light entertainment to pass the time around a campfire. Not at all. They had a very rigid, very specific job to do. They had a didactic purpose, meaning their explicit aim was to educate and to deliver ethical formation. The moral lesson wasn't some hidden Easter egg for the audience to discover later. It was the absolute, undeniable point of the entire story. Ancient societies used these fables as practical, functional tools to train the next generation on exactly how to behave, what to value, and ultimately, how to survive in their community.
Okay, slow and steady wins the race. We all know this one, right? It's practically hardwired into our brains at this point. I bring up this famous quote just to demonstrate how completely explicit these classical morals were. The ancient fabulists made their lessons absolutely impossible to miss. You didn't walk away from the story of the tortoise and the hare wondering about the deeper philosophical meaning of the race or the childhood trauma of the hare. No way. The lesson was handed to you on a silver platter. Education drove the form, and clarity was king.
Let's quickly break down the actual mechanics of this ancient machine. First off, brevity. Being short wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was a structural necessity for passing stories down by word of mouth. And because the story had to be short, well, there was no time for complex character development. Which brings us to their allegorical nature. In classical fables, characters are basically stand-ins for fixed human traits. The fox is always cunning. The crow is always vain. It's like they're boxed into these highly specific roles with zero ambiguity. And they tackled these massive universal themes: pride, envy, greed, humility. What's absolutely incredible to me is that despite having deep regional roots, drawing from the distinct cultures of Greece, India, and the Middle East, these traditions converged on the exact same values. They all championed humility over hubris and cunning over brute force.
But, society didn't stay ancient. We evolved, and so did our stories. Welcome to the modern remix. Today, that fundamental instinct to use a symbolic narrative is still very much alive, but modern creators have completely reshaped the fable to fit the messy complexities of our current world. We don't live in a world of absolute black and white anymore, right? We live in a world of nuances, and modern fables are designed specifically for navigating those tricky gray areas.
Now, what's really interesting about all of this is just how far the fable has exploded beyond the printed page. Look at the themes we're tackling now. We aren't just talking about abstract pride or greed anymore. Modern fables are wrestling with massive, real-world anxieties: surveillance, capitalism, climate change, identity politics, and they're doing it across literally every medium imaginable. Think of a massive blockbuster film like Disney's Zootopia, which cleverly uses predator and prey dynamics to explore social prejudice. Or think about video games and graphic novels that use nonlinear timelines and totally unreliable narrators to completely subvert our expectations. And instead of coming from just a single cultural tradition, today's creators are synthesizing global influences, remixing sources from all over the world into entirely new formats. It's a real game changer.
And this brilliantly illustrates the philosophical shift between the old world and the new.
Just look at this contrast. On the left side, the classical approach is all about teaching. It delivers a definitive verdict using those fixed archetypes we talked about. It speaks with complete authority. But on the right side, the modern approach is all about interrogating. It doesn't actually want to hand you the answer, it wants to provoke debate. It exposes broken systems using complex, totally contradictory characters. In a modern fable, the fox might actually be the sympathetic one, and the patient tortoise, he might be completely wrong. Modern fabulists resist the fixed moral archetype because, well, they know human nature isn't fixed.
So, you might be wondering, with all this wild narrative experimentation, have we just lost the essence of the fable entirely? Actually, not at all. There is a profound shared moral core that bridges Aesop's ancient dust directly to today's high-definition animation. Despite massive changes in the medium and the message, both traditions use the exact same foundational tools: character, conflict, and consequence. They both use narrative as a mirror to reflect something deeply true about how we humans live together. The mirror just happens to have a few more facets to it now.
Let's move on and see how this builds into the ultimate summary of our explainer, the Fable Matrix. Just look at the journey here. Themes evolve from the timeless and universal, like simple pride, to the intensely contemporary, like the impacts of technology. Characters transform from fixed, flat allegories into complex, contradictory beings. And perhaps most importantly, the whole purpose of the story shifts. We've moved from the ancient desire to deliver a clear verdict and teach a lesson, to the modern necessity to expose a system and really interrogate our reality. And honestly, this is exactly how a storytelling format survives and thrives across millennia.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. If fables truly are a moral mirror, what exactly do today's stories reflect about us? When you look at the media you consume, the complex characters you find yourself rooting for, and those ambiguous endings that frustrate and fascinate you, what is the reflection staring back at our society? The next time you see a talking animal on screen or read about an allegorical world, I hope you'll look just a little closer at the mirror. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.